Ed.
In 30 seconds. In 30 seconds.
Welcome to the live, everyone.
There you go.
We had a live rock intro by VERN of VERN Vision Truth Network. Thanks, VERN.
Yeah.
All righty. Welcome to UFO Man Live, first episode of 2020. Happy New Year to everyone. And hi, Renee. Happy New Year to you. We're going to do a couple of things tonight. We're going to talk about UFOs, and we're going to show some UFO videos, review some UFO videos that I've put up lately, and we're also going to have a second topic. Hi, Alex. We're also going to have a second topic this evening. What would that be, Tommy?
That would be cattle mutilations and the farmers who love them.
Yes, and the ranchers that are still trying to find out what the cause of them are, whether aliens are involved or whether it's a crack paramilitary unit or what. But we do have evidence to support both, and we'll take a look at it. Hi, Akam. Good to see you. Okay. What does anybody in the panel want to say about UFOs? Anybody want to say anything?
Well, this is Tommy. My name is Tommy Highway, and I'm an author, ufologist. I'm a network engineer, and I do have a new channel you can check out. It's Tommy Highway TV.
No,
and
channel.
And Happy New Year to everybody.
Yep. I'm sorry about that, Tommy. Vern, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Vern from VERN Vision. And what do you want to know?
You're a ufologist, correct?
I guess that's what they call me.
And you're also a researcher, and you're a guitar player and multi-talented, correct?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the jack of all trades, a master of many. I don't know.
Master of mayhem.
Yeah, I'm a person who's experienced real life activity. Let's just say, close encounters of the fourth, fifth kind, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
I've just over a period of many years have had very strange and unusual things happening to me, from being having like GPS fail and GPS log events that are impossible for anybody to conventionally, duplicate, to being within a few feet of an actual disc that almost hit me. And
wow.
went into another world. So
wow.
I'm pretty much where I don't believe in things I know they exist. So
right.
That's where I'm at.
Right.
Ufologist is sort of a nice way of terming things or whatever, but there's no really such thing as a ufologist, in my opinion, because there's no real accredited science to studying UFOs and all that, because our government chooses to treat it as if it's a joke. So,
right.
And it's not. I mean, obviously, the government recently has finally, disclosed some information known as the what is it called? The
Tic Tac.
Tic Tac, yes. And then there was the other. Actually, there was two videos that they disclosed, and one was from an F-18, which was the Tic Tac, and the other one was from an F-16. So Air Force and Navy, actually.
Right.
And they're not the only government. The Mexican government, the Chilean government, numerous European governments, the Russians, everybody has acknowledged that this phenomenon is real, and to what degree or level. I believe it's actually at such a level that they interact with members of our military and our government directly, indirectly, and do so without even allowing those people to know what they're doing. And that might sound like taking a big leap out there, but I've seen the technology. I've interacted with their technology, and their technology is so far beyond our comprehension that they can do things with our own thought processes within our heads. And it's no joke. I mean, they can actually, change the course of how your memory works in your brain. And not that they erase your memory, they just dislocate memories. And they also hide in plain sight too. I've actually been in situations where I've seen people who did not see the UFO that was in plain sight. I pointed it out to them. They saw the UFO, and then within the time frame that they saw the UFO and were shocked by it, within not see it again. And it's kind of a weird thing when you witness it. I had my one of my children witnessed it with me, that activity with a person, and she was, because I guess the children are younger, they're more privy or more open to seeing these things and accepting them than adults. Adults were, it took me years to get over the denial. Like when I go out in the field, and I'd be out there for all night long, and I'd have video. I come home and look at the video, and if it wasn't for the video, I would be absolutely in denial of what I saw. I come home and talk myself out of it. I didn't see that, and it was amazing to me, because after a while, I catch myself doing it. And it would bother the hell out of me. So that's something that you have to consider, that we are brainwashed by, I don't know what means, but I would imagine through many different sources that they keep this from us. And the government really isn't responsible, because the government is made up of human beings, and we all are subjected to the same stuff. Now, few of us, like you and Tommy and some of the others of us, have experienced this phenomena and know it's real. You know what I mean? And this is where we're going with it, trying to figure out what it is.
Right. Tommy?
Well,
what's your viewpoint?
I can say that I've had two experiences where I witnessed technology that was non-terrestrial, and I mean, there was just no doubt in my mind about that. When you see something that's this ominous, out of place, I mean, there are really no words to describe it, unfortunately. But I basically had to keep this under my hat for a number of years, my career, government employee, that sort of thing. In fact, it was, to be honest, several years even after I left government service that I decided that I felt comfortable enough to come out and talk about, my experiences. And it's not like I've been, born a craft or anything like that, but I have been in two different instances in the early 90s where I bore witness to something. I don't like to use the word miraculous, but it's really probably better than anything else I can think of offhand. I'm talking about technology that does not belong on this planet, was not produced on this planet. And that's just the bottom line. I mean, we didn't have this technology 30 years ago. We don't have technology like this now. This is something completely different, on a totally different level than anything else that we can have, that you can imagine that we have, even militarily.
Right. They say that, hold on a second here. They say that we have a lot of technology that is extremely advanced, but we're only about 100 years ahead of what we know. Mm-hmm. These craft that people are seeing are like maybe 1,000, maybe even 1,000,000 years ahead of what we know. Getting back to what Vern was saying.
Let me say something. We might be getting way ahead of ourselves, because technology is dependent on technology. And let me say this about that. Our computer science has become computerized, where we no longer do the architecture by hand and all that. So the rate at which we are turning over our technology now is exponential, and it could be that this is less than 100 years in our future that we have capabilities of doing what I'm seeing. I don't think it's really out of hand. The technology is so seamless and so integrated in a way that I think that it's almost as if it's a type of technology that we're on the verge of having.
Wow.
So
that's impressive. What I was going to say before in regards to countries releasing the information, and they may have said that the UFO phenomenon is real, but they're not indicating where they come from, what the source is. They're not saying, okay, yes, they're saying these objects are flying around in our airspace. We have footage. We have shown you the Tic Tac and the other one from the F-16, but we have not said that these are alien in nature. We are just saying that they're non-conventional.
Right.
Well, who's to say they're not experimental? Just like what Vern's saying, that our technology is growing exponentially. It could very well be ours, or maybe it isn't. But what Tommy saw obviously probably wasn't. Can you share with us again, Tommy, what you saw?
Well, I guess probably the best way to do that would be to tell the story of what I call the Iowa incident. And I have written a book, and this story is in that. The book is actually called Strange Tales from the Highway. And not to do a shameless plug here, but you can find my books at TommyHighway.com.
Yeah,
but Happy New Year, right? But
right.
The first experience that I had, I was actually living in northern Iowa. I was in a job training program, and I had a girlfriend, and she was a college student there. And we lived in a really small town. At least back in those days, it was a very small town. I'm talking about, she worked at a department store. I don't want to say which one, but it's a huge chain these days. Back in those days, they were just little department stores, but now you've been there, you've shopped there, you would know this place. Okay. Think Red. Okay. Think Red. But so what would happen is I would do my thing during the day, and my girlfriend would do her thing in school. And then she took a job at this department store in the evenings, kind of thing. And as it happens, well, this department store was on the very edge of town. I mean, right past this department store, there was nothing but cornfields and silos. I mean, as far as the eye could see, literally. And as it happens, there were some old roads. I've been told several things. There were old gravel pits or something, but there were some old roads about a mile or so behind this business. And I had this hot little Pontiac car that I really liked a lot. So what I would do is I would get bored waiting for her to get off work at like 10, something like that in the evening. And I would take my car out to these roads, and I would, rip it up and down the roads. There were no neighbors. There were no cops. I mean, we're talking about the middle of nowhere. But they kept the roads in pristine condition, I guess because of budgetary concerns or whatever. But basically, this one long road sort of had a decline to it. And it dead ended at a cornfield, like a big gate. They had a big gate where they could get, I guess, the corn equipment in and out of there or whatever. Total agricultural belt. I mean, to the absolute max. Well, and I had done this. I'd been taking this little drive. I wouldn't even have a guess at how many times. I mean, a bunch. And I did this all the time. And one evening, just like always, just like on cue pretty much, I took my car out to that road, and I started driving up and down the road. And I want to say, it was probably about my third trip down, and my car started doing something odd. And you got to understand, this is like a new car. This car's got 5,000 miles on it. It started kind of shaking, shimmering, and all that. And I'm looking at my gauges, and everything looked okay. And it got worse. And then I don't know why I got this in my mind, but I thought, earthquake. This must be a friggin' earthquake. So I stopped the car as fast as I could, and I jumped out because I wanted to feel, the vibrations on my feet. I'd never really been through one before. I think a small one when I was a child or something. But anyway, I got out of the car, and the car really started jumping up and down, and then it shut down completely. And I don't mean just the engine turned off. I mean the lights, the stereo, just complete power out. Boom, black. Wasn't much of a moon that night or anything like that. There was a little bit of light, but not much. So I'm standing there, and the car's pointed west, and I'm I'm looking in the car door north, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what did I just do to my new car? When something caught my eye, and I look up and to the north, and I see this huge, it looked enormous, this big, what I can really only describe as a maroon light. I mean, I know that's hard to imagine, but a real dark red orb, let's say. And it was several hundred yards ahead of me. And I mean, it dominated the sky. I mean, you couldn't miss this thing.
Right.
And I remember looking at it, and I'm watching it, and it's moving slowly. It's moving from north to south very slowly, deliberately though. It wasn't like there was a wind or anything, because there really was no wind that night. And this didn't look like a balloon. It wasn't a balloon or a blimp or a Chinese lantern or any of that stuff. Nothing like that. This was completely out of place. Okay.
Right.
I wouldn't have been more surprised if the thing was a dragon. Okay. That's how out of place this thing was. But as it moved, all of a sudden it just dropped and lost about half its altitude, and it stopped in midair, just stopped. And it started emitting this molten, super bright stuff coming out of it. I don't know what this was. I guess molten metal maybe or something, but it was really bright. Like I couldn't look at it. Talking about so bright that I'm having to like kind of look at it like this, right? Shield my eyes from it. And it did that several times, let some of that stuff out, and then it stopped, and it started gaining altitude again, kind of at a diagonal in a diagonal direction, going to the south, I should say. I'm sorry. And it kind of crossed where I was standing. So it got past me, and then it dropped again. And this time I was almost positive that it was going to hit the ground. In fact, I remember clenching up. I don't know why, but I remember doing that. So it stopped again, and it dumped some more of that material. And then after it dumped some more of that material, it started going back to the south again, kind of, up diagonally. Well, as I'm watching this, something catches my eye to the right, coming from the north, just like this one was coming from. And I look over, and here comes a real small orb, but it was really bright. It was about the color of the sun, I would say, something like that, yellowish orange. And it's moving. It's going, and it's headed right for this thing. As I'm watching it, another one of these small orbs scared the crap out of me. Not that I wasn't already terrified, but it came back basically from behind me and across my shoulder. So I'm like, oh my God. And it's headed toward this thing. So what happened was, the one from the north disappeared behind the big object. And then the smaller one that came from behind me, it pulled up right next to it. So imagine a volleyball being straddled by two golf balls. Okay. Sort of that sort of a thing. And they all stopped together. They didn't make it. They didn't move. And this wasn't a quick thing. I mean, it didn't happen like that. I knew several minutes were going by, and I'm watching, and I'm thinking, should I get out of here? But then there was nowhere for me to go. And this is before cell phones and all that. And I mean, I'm in the middle of nowhere, at least at the time it was. So as I'm watching these things, again, for maybe what seemed like 10, 15 minutes to me, the large one in the center began to sort of light up. I call it a swirl of light in the book, but that's just because there's no other way to describe it. Almost like little pins of light would appear in it, and it would go out and become that dull red again. And it did that 3 or 4 times until finally it did it one time, and it became the same color as the other two. Now, what I'm explaining here is the two smaller ones, and I know this to be true. The two smaller ones were rendering aid to the big one. The big one was in trouble, and they rolled up to the rescue. Well, as soon as they all became the same color, they shot straight up in the air, and they just gained tens of thousands of feet of altitude. I could still see them up there, but they looked like one, they were so high up, they looked like one thing. And then they just all took off to the south, just boom, like that. Now, as soon as they left, like the second that they left, my car comes back on. Now, I don't mean that the engine turned over, but I mean the lights came on and the stereo is blaring static, like it's getting half a station or something, because I was jamming when I was driving when this happened, right? Wow. So I jump in the car, and it had a hell of a stereo in it, and the static is just killing me. And it had those rocker buttons where you push up one side and it goes up, one side and it goes down, the volume. Right. I just said the hell with it and hit the power button. And I looked next to the power button where the clock is, and the clock is flashing 12:01. Now, what I can tell you about the car is I drove that car for 354,000 miles in like 12, 13 years after this. And I never had a problem with the car. Even had the battery out of it several times, and it didn't reset the clock. And there was enough, residual power to keep the clock going while I changed batteries and stuff. Well, anyway, so I remember sitting in the car and I grabbed the keys and I'm thinking, will it start? Will it start? Turn the keys and boom, fires right up. And I was tempted to try to drive back into that cornfield to see if that molten material left any kind of a burn spot on the ground or whatever. Then I thought, well, I'm going to be late to pick her up anyway. I better get out of here. So plus I'm just completely freaked out by what had just happened to me. Right. So I get in the car and I tear ass all the way back to where she works. And I pulled into the service entrance like I always did and come around the front of the store, and the place is closed up tight. I mean, every light that they turned off, they turned off. My girlfriend wasn't standing there, anything like that. So again, this is before cell phones and all that. And we lived maybe 2.5 miles from this, like straight down the road. So I got in the car, I drove to our house. And as I pulled up, I knew she was home because every light in the house was on. And I came in the door. And again, I mean, my eyes must be like this. Okay. I'm freaked out. And she's standing there at the kitchen table, the dinette set, tapping her foot, and just reams me a new one. Just blah, 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 irresponsible, this, that, and the next thing, even though I'd actually never been late to pick her up before. But right. Anyway, she was just angry. And I'm like, but, listen, wait. And finally, I'm like, listen, I can't possibly be that late anyway. And she grabbed me by the wrist, and I'll never forget this, and led me into the kitchen like she always did, and pointed at the clock on the wall. And I mean, it was like 11:30. So this whole thing that I'd been going through took at least 90 minutes. So, I mean, I stood there a while and watched this, in other words. So we'd had plans that evening, a big dinner and all that stuff we were going to do, because there was a big fight on. It was there I go. There was a big fight on. It was the night that Mike Tyson got beat by Buster Douglas for the first time. Wow. So she's angry. We're not going to eat after all this. So we go upstairs to go to bed, and I'm still going to watch the fight. And so I turn on the television. I'm flipping through the channels, and we still got a little bit of time before HBO starts the fight stuff, you know. And I happened to land on the local news, which was down in Des Moines, and this is an hour and a half south. And all the news stations were talking about it. People all over the state were reporting lights in the sky, and somebody even reported a fire in the sky and all kinds of stuff. And I remember looking at my girlfriend like, she's like, you were telling the truth? Yeah, I was telling the truth. And what destroyed our relationship, ironically enough, is that I realized that night that if I come home and I tell my significant other that I just experienced something like this, I expect a little bit of support. You know what I mean? And I didn't get it. Right. So, but yeah, and that's the night right there that changed everything for me. I mean, it became UFOs and aliens and other world technology and all of that. It went from the things of science fiction to reality. Right. And once you have that moment, I mean, it changes things. It really changes the way you think.
Thank you, Tommy. It does change your worldview. It's a definite thing. When I had my sighting that was 50 feet away and 500 feet in the air, I did believe in UFOs at that time, but I hadn't had a close-up sighting. And when I had this close-up sighting, I was completely flabbergasted. It was like, wow, what can you say when you see something like that? You just can't say anything because we haven't been conditioned to experience that. We've been told that they don't exist. And if they do exist, they're just Tic Tacs or out of focus potatoes, so to speak. It's
like you are looking at a completely different reality in a different realm, and it's right there in front of your eyes, impeding on your reality. I mean, there are no words to be able to describe it, really.
And they're moving around our airspace with impunity.
With impunity, sure.
We don't have a way of stopping them from doing that. So I almost wonder if that isn't one of the reasons why disclosure really hasn't gotten any transparency, because the people that are in the know are afraid of the public finding out, hey, these things are flying around. We have no way of stopping them.
Nothing we can do about it.
Nothing we can do about it. So, yeah. So I have some UFO videos that I want to play. One is one that was shown on VERN Vision Truth Network recently, and it's from a friend of mine from Ann Vern's. down in Las Vegas. Actually, he lives in a suburb called Summerlin, and his name is Stephen Barone. And he filmed some incredible footage that shows an object dropping a probe to the ground and then raising it back up and flying off, and showing a searchlight on the mountains and on the ground. Now, I'm going to say this up front. Some people have suggested that this footage is of a helicopter or conventional aircraft. And according to Stephen Barone, he has checked with the military, which would be Nellis Air Force Base. He has checked with the local search and rescue organizations. He has checked with the police, and there has been no indication that any activity officially of any kind was happening at that point. So watch the video and let me know what you think afterwards. So let's see here if I can get this going. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late, guys.
Yeah, that's all right.
Welcome to the party.
We're just getting going anyways. Let's see here. I want to, okay. Here we go. There is narrative.
Hey guys, it's UFO Man. I've got a really awesome clip here from a ufologist out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by the name of Stephen Barone. He has a channel called UFO over Vegas. Check it out. This footage was filmed on 12/11/2019 around 7 o'clock in the evening with a Nikon P900 digital camera.
Oh, it's also filled with a Lunar Optics night vision camera as well. What do you think of this, Vern?
I think it's what he says it is.
Yes, he says this is a definite UFO event.
Here's a brief close-up of the light in question.
Because the reason being is that there is no one coming forward saying that they did or took part in this. It is not operating within FAA rules and regulations. It does not have the proper.
The object is zoomed in by 0.25. Take a look. See the details.
Without needing to have clearance. Like if you have a man tethered from a line or something like that, it all needs to be cleared with the FAA. If you're even jumping out of an airplane anywhere 10,000 feet or whatever in a populated area, you have to notify air traffic. You get fucking killed, and or cause an air disaster. You know what I mean? Like a body can fuck up a plane, believe it or not. It's not like running into a building where they just nothing happens.
What I like about this video here is after a while, this thing actually ducks under one of those pillar things, those things on top of that building.
Right.
And it actually, okay, like right here, here's where we're coming now. If you're doing some digital trickery here, okay, and if you're trying to create a hoax or whatever, when it goes up into that pillar right there, I got to believe that would be almost impossible to do. And why would you want to?
Yeah, it'd be real difficult.
Yeah. So this I saw this before on UFO Man's channel, and this for me is it's really hard for me to explain this one away.
And the fact that didn't say, said that they weren't doing anything. The Army wasn't doing anything. Who the fuck is this?
Right, exactly. Search and rescue was not out that day.
Yeah, exactly. Search and rescue and that's using the sheriff's department helicopter. So the sheriff's department or the highway patrol would be knowing if they were operating in that area. There's a civilian helicopters around in that area too, but they all have to have FAA clearance to do any of this stuff. And this is not normal stuff. This is,
there would be a flight log.
Whenever they dangle something or a person off of if it was a person, okay, dangling them off of there, there's a big risk involved there. You know what I mean? It's no, you understand, like with those cables, if they're not grounded properly, they can cut you in half from the electrical discharge from the static. It's no joke. I've seen crazy shit happen when you're out, especially when you're like on the ocean. And they drop those cables down. If you're ever in a situation, never touch that cable. Let it touch the boat first, because if not, you're dead. Seriously, it's like 30 or 40,000 volts that go through those things. So it's not an amateurish thing going on here. If it was, so the other question would be maybe movie stunt. Okay, well, once again, you would have that whole area cordoned off. They'd have to have law enforcement there.
Permits for everything.
I've witnessed when they do filming up here, they have to have law enforcement involved that they lease and they put on the premises, and they make a public information officer available for that. So this is what's weird. Okay, what is it? Who's doing this? And it needs to be investigated, because this is illegal.
Right. The other thing I wanted to state is Stephen Brown stated, quote unquote, that he even walked out on foot to take a look at this object, and he got right under it, and there was no sound, absolutely no helicopter blades to be seen, so it wouldn't be a helicopter. And if there was sound, you would have heard it.
Yeah, you just see a light here. You don't see any physical object. And we can put up other video of helicopters. You're going to see the object. You're going to see the helicopter. Okay, I mean, they fly around here all the time. Care flight. They have very bright lights on them and stuff. They have spotlights, but you can see the helicopter.
Sure.
I can never see any structure on this ever.
Here it's going to go behind that chimney.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. Watch this. If you were going to fabricate something like this, why would you go to these links?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We picked up a pretty bad echo in here, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to mute to see where the echo is coming from. Okay, say echo.
Echo. That's perfect.
Vern?
Echo.
No, it's coming from Jax.
Echo.
No, it's not. Well, that's weird.
I hear it.
Yeah,
Now watch this. This is so interesting.
it's okay. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. You're not seeing frames overlapping or anything like that. I mean, that looks legit to me.
And I found out about those chimney covers. It's just an arch.
Right.
There is no screen or anything. It's open.
Mm-hmm.
So it's right behind that flue.
Right.
Yeah, it will move off here shortly, so you can get a better view of it. A lot of people were saying, well, why is the light in front of the chimney flue then? According to Stephen, that's called light bleed from the camera.
Yeah, it's not. It's behind there.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You said that he got underneath it?
Yes.
He was directly underneath it.
No, he went over to where it was. He never got underneath it. He only shot it from where it was behind his place there.
Okay.
This is watch this. It's where it's dropping. It's where it's dropping down that whatever that is.
Yeah. like I said, if that was a person, okay, this is a high risk maneuver. You have no idea.
Oh yeah.
There's a static buildup on that cable. It requires you have to know what you're doing to do this. You can't just drop anybody down or whatever. I mean, it requires a lot of training. So this is just something that, and see, there's no structure to that fucking thing at all. And he zoomed in, and the resolution is there, and we should see structure. All I see is like light surrounding.
It's like it took a sample of the ground or something on the ground.
I don't know. It's very weird. The whole thing.
When it goes down, it gets bigger.
I mean, it could be a construction helicopter, but I don't see any structure to it. Seriously,
no, I don't either.
It's just round, and it keeps turning around. And as it turns around, it stays round.
You know that
Light never moves. If you notice that the light moves with it, that's what's another weird thing with it.
Vern, you know that lit area on the ground when it dropped the probe?
Yeah.
You can see it. All it was a roof.
I know. Well, see, that's that weird kind of light that actually gets projected from the ground up. I almost think it's that same kind of light. I couldn't really, there wasn't enough of it there, but the way it was perfectly square on the edges. Did you see how square the light was?
Yes. You see right there, you can see the searchlight.
Yeah.
Square light. And look at that thing. That's like a light, dude. I mean, look at that. And they're separated. There's nothing connecting those together. That is fucking weird, man. I need to go down there.
Yeah. Alex needs to bring down his P900.
I've been telling Steven I've been going to come down there forever, and I'm going to come down there this spring for sure. Before it gets hot, for sure.
Yeah, he said hi to you the other day,
Oh, cool. Yeah, I
try to bring Stephen Barone on the channel and interview him. So keep checking back to see if we get him on, because his channel.
The echo's getting really bad. Are you near Alex? Because you might be picking up his laptop or his Apple.
No, I'm not. I'm on the other side of the house in a room with the door shut.
It seemed to start when the video did.
Okay, how are you doing the video?
I got the video on another screen, and I'm just sharing it.
Well, try stopping and see if that stops it.
Okay, hold on.
No, I mean stop. Get rid of the video completely. It's 11:10 or whatever, 11:11. We'll just go back to it. Just close it out.
17:55. Okay. Let's see here. Gotta make it small.
Just close the whole thing down. Close that whole entire thing down and see if it stops it.
Okay, hold on a second here. I gotta go back to. There we go.
So there. How about if we try to mute Jax and see what that does it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm muting now.
Okay, how about now? Any echo?
Echo.
No echo.
No.
Yeah.
Come back on, Jax.
How about now?
How about now?
That's it.
It's
that's cool. All we have to do is just get Jax to mute his mic until he's talking.
You sent him a link in Hangouts, didn't you? You sent him a link in Hangouts, and it opened up in Hangouts, and that's why there's an echo.
I didn't open it up in Hangouts.
Like a browser, that's why. In Hangouts, Streamlab and Hangouts are not compatible.
I did not open it up in Hangouts. I copied the link and went to Chrome, hit the Chrome button, put it in the browser in Chrome, and came in that way.
Okay, did you go under the mic settings and make sure that you were set on speaker and not on? Make sure
no, I did not, because I'm using my headset.
I know, but the mic settings you have to go manually and change them on Streamlab.
Well, here's like I say, this is the easy fix. All we had to do is just mute Jax until he wants to talk, until we go through the panel and all that, and then bam, he's in there.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah,
it worked last time, Jax. We'll do that. Okay. All right. Going back to the video, we can do that. Let's see here. I just gotta go back to share screen. Okay, make it big again. Okay, this is where we left off.
This to me just feels like one of the more legit videos that I've seen in quite some time.
Yes.
I mean, there's just everything is right with this, and I can't find anything wrong.
There were a few naysayers
Sure.
that were coming on saying because it's segmented, because it's got that blinking light in the back, it's most likely a conventional vehicle or a drone. And I said, well, first of all, a drone makes a rotor sound or an engine noise, and no noise was heard. Secondly, also, does a drone stay in one place like that and then turn into just a flashing light? I don't know.
It would have to have one hell of a light on it to look. That's what Nevada, middle of the day, sunny as it can be, and to get a light to be able to be that bright and compete against the sunlight. What are you powering that with exactly? And what kind of power supply would that have to happen or have to have?
Here comes another orb down to the ground. See it?
Yeah.
Is there any ponds around there? I mean, could just hear me out. I'm just gonna throw this out there. Could that possibly be like swamp gas or ball lightning or?
It's the desert, dude. There's no
Desert.
water.
It's lasting too long for that too.
In fact, it's right on the edge of the Nellis Air Force Base test range.
Pretty dry area
Just
for sure.
throwing it out.
Right. No, good thing to say. Right. No, good thing to Yes, Occam, erector sets do come with winches, but I don't think this is an erector set.
Nope, I don't either.
Yeah, maybe, Frankie. It could be taking soil samples. That's possible. But it's hard to ascertain what it's actually doing because it looks like it's going down to a roof, lighting up the roof, and then going back up. Now, see, there it goes down again. Do you think it's man-made, Occam? According to Stephen, it is not. It is something more than that.
I just don't have an explanation for that. I mean, that's just, a drone can only stay around for so long. And again, that light, even if you're shooting something through a prism or whatever, you're going to have one seriously bright light to pull that off.
Right.
And a seriously bright light usually like that something that big would again require a serious battery.
Right.
You don't see too many drones, dragging around car batteries. I mean,
right. This one I thought was phenomenal footage.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say anything different
I'm almost going to have to call this best of 2019
that I've seen so far. I'd say so too.
Yeah. If it was a chopper, you'd hear you'd hear those blades. They'd be echoing all over those canyons.
Right. He actually thought that it might be. See, now there are 3 lights right there. Did you see that?
Yep.
3 plus the one below it.
Yep.
And this footage will go, either it's flying into a canyon or it just disappears. I'm not sure. It looks like it might be entering a canyon, but it does disappear here shortly. Right here. No, not right there. Okay, next one. You'll see it disappear. Right by that crack there on the left. It'll be gone. I think it entered a canyon. There, it's gone.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I'd say that was a good clip.
Yep.
Oops. All right. On to the next clip. Let's see here. Oh, that's not it. Okay, this is another one by Stephen Barone that I just put up recently. And this one's amazing as well. Take a look at this. I'm gonna not use the sound, so it'll just be the video clip. This clip here was filmed in 2015, but it's indicative of some of the things that he is filming around the Nellis Air Force Base and in the mountain ranges surrounding the test range. Take a look. Now, the jerkiness of the clip, according to Stephen, is he's adjusting his camera to keep it in frame. Now, the only thing that I regret on this clip is that he sped it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you could see the movement. It was sped up, I think, times 10. So if you were to slow it down, it would be an incredibly long clip. But these objects are said to have been piloted by alien visitors, that they are being piloted by a group called the Tall Whites. Now, this was confirmed by a statement that came from a Charles Hall, who was a meteorologist in the 1960s at Nellis Air Force Base. And he came in contact with these beings, allegedly, and they flew these craft. And every now and then they would be allowed off base to go out and fly around to keep their technology working and whatnot. So here they are. Check them out. Now, this one here is going to lead up to another clip that Stephen will narrate that is about a minute long. That is from 2017, showing the same objects. Now, at first I thought these were drones, but then I spoke to Stephen and he said, again, that these have no noise. And when they were seen, there were no amateur or military exercises going on in that area at the time. So what do you think of these, Vern?
Yeah.
Now we have a really bad echo. What do you think, Tommy?
I'm not really sure what to think about this. I wish it hadn't been sped up.
Right.
To be honest, I mean, there's an awful lot of them. Could those be terrestrial drones? It's possible, but they do make some noise. But that also depends on the altitude of the drone. I mean, if it's up there 1,000 feet, you're probably not going to hear it.
It's not up that high. See, it's right above the roof.
Yeah, I mean, but not really sure what to make of this. It's definitely interesting.
Now, if you look, one thing I wanted to point out is sometimes you will see that the orbs, for lack of a better term, merge. They come together. They don't just stay next to each other. They will become one orb. But you have to, it's like they come real close and they join and then they separate right there.
Yeah.
So it's like if that was a drone, they would have crashed and gone down to the ground.
Well, that is true. I mean, if you're an amateur drone operator and you're flying at night like that in those kinds of formations, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, there could very well be a crash. You'd have to be a pretty good drone pilot. You'd have to have a bunch of pretty good drone pilots, actually. But again,
I'm sorry. This is the 2017 clip.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Well, I was actually just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not really sure what to make of this, other than it does look pretty eerie.
Yeah. Now, he said, take a look down by the timestamp and you'll see the extreme acceleration here toward the end. You'll see one of them accelerate really quick right there.
Yep. Huh.
But these are all flying back to Nellis Air Force Base to the right.
Yes, looks like it, doesn't it?
Yep. Now, this is a replay of what they're doing. They're leaving the base. They're going alongside the edge of Nellis Air Force Base test range. According to what I understand, each one of these objects is about 30 feet across. Now, that could be the size of a drone, yes. But according to the videographer, they're not drones. But then again, how do you tell for certain? Like I said, he called the necessary authorities and confirmed that there were no activities of any kind. But are they going to come clean to the public in regards to things like that? Not necessarily. So it would be difficult to say. But it's still a very credible piece of footage. Okay, next clip. Let's see here. Oops, there we go. These lights here occurred near where I live. These occurred off the I-94, I-90 interstate near Rushford, Minnesota. Not really sure what they are, but this would probably be about 25 miles from where I live. So I thought it was a real cool sighting. What do you guys think in the chat?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, this here I thought was either ball plasma or possibly something other, but I'm unsure. This was filmed over New Jersey in 2019, I think June of 2019. And it will shoot straight up. Watch. There it goes. Okay, here when the lightning flashes, you'll see something fly over the fence. I don't know what it is. There it goes. Now, there will be a replay. You'll be able to see it. Yes, Renee, it could be a sprite. I don't think it was the Aurora Borealis, but it could be a sprite of some kind. Okay, these lights here, there are two right there, but there are actually three, and they were filmed over Lyon, France. I can't remember the exact date, but it was recently. Now, they're not near any airport. They're just hanging above some trees and some farmland. Why? If they were planes, why would they just be hanging there right above farmland? I don't know. but it's pretty interesting. Let's see if I can get closer. When I get closer, that kind of gets pixelated. Not a whole lot I can do about that.
Yeah.
I think the camera they were using was probably a cell phone, and some cell phones are not the best.
Right.
And how much time do you really have to focus when you see something? Okay, this here was filmed over Kusatsu, Japan. Okay, and this was like in September of this year. I have no clue what it is. But here
Tommy TV or Tommy Highway TV.
I'm sorry.
Is that you in the chat, Tommy Highway TV? Is that you?
Yep.
Okay, I'll put that.
Did you bump me from the chat?
No, you're still there. Okay, that's that one. Let's see here. Okay, I have this one. Okay, I'm going to go to the beginning so that you can see it. Okay. I can't remember where this was. Oh, yeah, I do. This is over Phoenix Harbor, Phoenix, Arizona. This gentleman saw something black in the sky, and he's pointing it out to his wife. And this object started to turn. And at first, they thought it might be a blimp.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't exhibit any cupola underneath it, and there are no tail fins, none. So when you get a look at it really close, when I bring it in close, when it's stretched out in a horizontal manner, I will show it to you, and you can see what looks like some type of field around its center, around its midsection, and it's actually rotating. But here it is. Now, he does a lot of different camera angles. There's an airport near there. And so I thought, well, maybe it still is some kind of blimp. But the people claim that it is not a blimp. So take a look and let me know what you think. Yeah, Renee, a cupola is the basket that's underneath the blimp itself, the control center. That's what a cupola is. Yes, it is huge.
Looks cylindrical.
And it will reflect the sunlight. You'll see it reflected, unless that's a light. I don't know, but it looks like it's reflecting. Now I'm going to zoom in. Keep going down, I think, for point of reference. Here, we're going to zoom in here. But you're going to see a flash. There it is.
Yep.
And then in the middle, it almost looks like there's some type of distortion, like maybe an electromagnetic field of some kind. But you can.
It almost looks like a plane that's like held in suspended animation for a second.
Yep.
But look at that. Look. Now you can see the field in the middle. See it?
What is that? This is a recent video. I just saw this. You just put this out the other day.
Yes.
This is, I mean, what is that?
I don't know.
It's a solid object. It's not a blimp.
Right.
It looks like a cylindrical, like cigar shaped.
Right.
Huh. Well, it's damned interesting, isn't it?
Look at the light flash off it. I don't know if that's a light or if that's a reflection. And being that the sky is kind of cloudy there, I would have to say it's probably a light.
Probably. And how long did it hang there?
From what they said, like 30 minutes. Because they hiked up to the top of this hill and they were sitting there filming the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got it from multiple different angles. I mean, there's no doubt. It's
okay. Here's another one. This is over past Christian, Mississippi. This was filmed by a bunch of roofers. They were roofing on this house to the left. Now,
just hangs there.
Yeah, it just hangs there. I don't know what that is. Now, I thought this might be a plane, but it's not moving.
Nope.
Now, I will zoom in, but it doesn't do it justice. It pretty much just shows there. It does show what appears to be ionized air around it. You see that?
Yep.
What do you think about that, Vern?
Hey, he's off camera.
He's off camera? Okay. Well, anyways, this here.
How about Jax?
Jax,
What are your thoughts, buddy?
Now that's blown up, so. These are some still images. They don't do it justice, but.
Well, that's kind of interesting because you actually can see a little bit of detail. You can see the edges.
Yep. It's a solid object, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Is definitely moving. And it does look like it's rotating a little bit. Like spiraling. It's just interesting.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
You would think, I mean, hanging there half an hour, you would think the military would be molested by something. News helicopter, the military. I mean, you know, it's not that high up. Wonder why somebody didn't pounce on that.
Right. This next one is hard to determine what it is, but I have a lot of provenance on this one. Here we go. These are some lights that were filmed over Cook's Inlet, Alaska, by a young girl that was jogging. And she said that these lights were over land to begin with, and then they moved out over the water, and she said they were about a mile out, okay, on the inlet. The inlet runs along the peninsula of Alaska, okay? And she said that there were 4 to 6 lights. Here I only see 5. There's like 1, 2, and then there's 2 together at the third light, and then there's your 5th light. It's reflecting on the water. Now, I posted a link in the actual video, and I'll see if I can find it so I can post it in the chat. But it shows exactly where it is in daylight, so you can get an idea. But there's absolutely nothing there except the inlet, and on the opposite side there's some mountains, but that's it. So this is over Cook's Inlet, Alaska. The people that surrendered this footage would not come forward in fear of ridicule.
Sure.
And losing their jobs, because the girl that saw it was part of the U.S. Army. And she was afraid of being reprimanded by the service. So I could not do that. Now let me get the link down here. Okay, this is what she said. Woman, age 23, runs from work, and she said she watched them for 7 minutes until they started coming towards her. So she ran the rest of the way home, about 1 mile. Tuesday, October 15, 2019. She perceived they were around a mile out over the inlet. She counted a total of 6 lights. The weather was clear and calm at slack tide. They glowed but did not flash. We live 1 mile from the inlet's edge, and these are not part of the normal scene, but they do appear there on occasion. There were cars driving by, but nobody stopped. We live in a low population area that's considered rural. We don't know any of the other witnesses, but people around here would not likely talk about it if they did. Members of this family have seen these 3 or 4 times, sometimes over land and sometimes over the inlet. The first sighting was seen by 6 other people that I'm aware of. These show up every few years over the inlet. We first saw 5 orbs over our house 7 years ago, so we followed them and they went to the inlet and hovered close to the surface of the water. There is an oil and gas refinery there. My theory is that they are beings or entities and not craft. They behave as creatures and not craft. I made this assessment because I studied behavior as a university psychology student in my senior year. So that is her statement, quote unquote. Okay, let me see if I can get the link here. I don't have the link in there, but I will get the link and I will post it up on my replay on my site, on my channel. Okay, let's see here. No. Okay, what we're going to do now is go back to the panel. Okay, Tommy, can you introduce the second part of our evening?
Sure. Sure. Cattle mutilations are something that I've been interested in for a very long time because they've actually been happening. They started in the 70s when I was a child. And I remember even as a child and listening to the stories and the descriptions of the way that the animals were found, the condition and all of that, how precise the cuts were to certain organs, certain parts of the bodies. And it's almost kind of always the same. And this was like a big thing in the 70s. We're talking 77, 78. There was a whole rash of these. And they were happening all over the western states. We're talking Colorado, we're talking Montana, places like that. And so I've always been very fascinated in that. The thing about it is it doesn't seem to really be stopping. These things continue to happen. And these days we would have a very hard time making precision cuts like this on anything, on any organic material. Back in the 70s, we didn't have anything even close to that. But yet these were precise cuts, and it was usually the same organs all the time. We're talking about the mouth area, the eyeball area. We're talking about the actual womb of the animal. Okay,
right.
The actual, right. The sexual organs and all of that. I mean, meticulously removed. Okay,
right.
So there are all kinds of theories about this. One of my personal theory, and just take it as that, is that they've always told us, science has always told us that we have a great deal we have a great deal in common with cows, okay? As far as our internals or whatever, there's some similarities there, a lot of similarities, and in some ways even more similar than primates. So it all kind of ties into my theory of the alien seed mothers and the alien hybrids and all of that. And if you believe in that sort of thing, I wonder, I mean, wouldn't a cow udder, a cow uterus rather, wouldn't that be a pretty good possibly material to make, an artificial womb with or something like that? Again, because of the similarity between our bodies and the bodies of a cow.
Right. Okay. On that note, I have a video that I need to play. And as we all know in the ufology community circles, Linda Moulton Howe has been studying cattle mutilations since the late 60s. And I have a video with her testifying before the citizens hearing. And I think it had occurred in like 2001, but it is very important for everyone to hear it and to watch this. So I will bring it up. We can take a look at it. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, here we go.
1967, when a female horse named
Can you hear
Lady
it?
was found dead on a ranch near Alamosa in southern Colorado. The horse's entire skull and long neck had been stripped of flesh, and every organ in the chest of that horse had been surgically excised according to a medical doctor. There was no blood anywhere, not in the animal, not around the animal, and nowhere nearby. And there were no tracks of the animal. It was powdery soil, and the animal is lying there stripped of flesh.
Sorry, Tim, I had to check on some.
Tracks around
okay.
the body, not even the own horse's tracks. But 100 and some feet away, there were horse tracks in a circle, as if the horse had been caught in something in which the feet had gone around in a circle. And then 100 and some feet away, the body was found. At that same time, and Jennifer, image 00, on July 15th, 1984, the Sunday Times in Australia headline, quote, "Cover up alleged over UFO-linked animal slaughter. Many reports of UFOs and strange lights in the sky," close quote. Farmers in the Adelaide Hills have discovered mutilated animal corpses and burn marks on the ground. In one incident, researchers say a farmer discovered 4 cows with holes drilled into their skulls and the brains removed. Adelaide UFO researcher Colin Norris said, quote, "I have been told the Army asked the farmer to remain quiet about the animals and that the Army would cover the whole thing up," close quote. Mr. Norris said pod marks in the ground and burnt treetops indicated a UFO craft had landed. That was Australia in 1984, and we should have up that headline at 00. Yes. And Australia has played a very interesting role in this historically, because the BBC in 1979, when I started the work on A Strange Harvest, there was a producer there who told me that they had a journal from 1911 that had been published about 104 sheep being found in an Australian billabong with an ear, eye, tongue, genitals, and rectum cored out. 104 all in one billabong with no blood and no tracks around those animals either. Image 13. This map shows geographic areas where animal mutilations have been reported since 1967 at least, barring the fact that Australia has reported many before. By 2013, every state in the United States and every province in Canada have had bloodless large animal mutilations, as well as other countries. No one knows for certain how many animals have been mutilated over the past half century in the United States and Canada and around the world. Many mutilated animals are not reported because ranchers are either afraid or do not want public attention and potential ridicule. Image 14. Beyond the United States and Canada, mutilated animals have been reported in Mexico, Panama, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, parts of Europe, the Canary Islands, China, and Australia. Image 1. Excisions are not only smooth and bloodless, they can be serrated the way that pinking shears cut cloth for dressmakers, as was discovered in this 2-year-old Hereford steer, the 5th mutilation on the Richard Fazio Ranch near Portland, Oregon, within a 4-month period ending in October of 1990. Image 2. Here is a photograph of the uniformly serrated edge of the mutilator's bloodless excision that many people who have had these in their hands in the field say do look like some kind of pinking shears has cut the steer's tissue. Image 3. Here is a close-up of that particular serrated edge from the side in the 1990 Oregon steer serrated excision that an Oregon State University veterinary diagnostic laboratory reported had been cut with high heat, image 5, consistent, and I'm reading now from the Oregon State University veterinary laboratory assessment, quote, consistent with a specimen collected via electrosurgical excision. It is not possible to tell whether this lesion was caused by a laser. It does appear consistent with a heat-induced injury, close quote, image 4. Here is another similar serrated edge found on a mutilated cow in 1975, we're going back almost 20 years, by the Cascade County Sheriff's Office in Great Falls, Montana. The issue of lasers came up early in the animal mutilation mystery because there was no blood. There had to have been some kind of cautery. But then I worked with John Altshuler, MD, pathologist and hematologist in Denver, Colorado, going out to animal mutilation sites myself to collect tissue and fluid for him to study from the animals. One of his first confirmations was cooked hemoglobin in a mutilated cow. Slide 6. Here is what normal cow collagen looks like under a microscope, image 7. And here is mutilated cow tissue in which the hemoglobin has been cooked by high heat at the excision site. Dr. Altshuler also showed me photomicrographs of the mutilator's excision in comparison with known laser surgery. Dr. Altshuler said, quote, the animal mutilation excisions do not show any carbon, but Earth life is carbon-based and all tissue exposed to the heat of a laser should show carbon residue that looks like black pepper grains under a microscope, quote, unquote. We never found any carbon residue on mutilator excisions we studied, raising the question, what is the surgical instrument? Does it work by sound frequencies or some other technology unknown to Earth medical science? Image 8. Here is a classic example of the bloodless removal of an udder from a cow that had just given birth in Ashdown, Arkansas, discovered on the morning of March 11, 1989. And I'm showing you, letting you know, this is one of the cleanest kind of phenomena. The excision is there and the animal is not alive, but you can see how pristine the scenes are. The editor of the Little River News, Jim Williamson, contacted me, and I called Dr. Altshuler, who wanted Jim Williamson to cut a rectangle of cowhide that would include the mutilator's cut. Dr. Altshuler said tissue slides from this cow, quote, prove that the cutting was done quickly with a hot instrument of some kind, close quote. He reported, quote, examination of the tissues after fixation revealed cut edges to be very hard, difficult to cut, and appearing somewhat darker than the surrounding tissues, which does relate to high heat. Image 9. Photomicrograph number 1 has an arrow which points to the separation line. The abnormal tissue on the left shows a smudged pink change with nuclear fragmentation, indicating tissue destruction and death. These changes are referred to as coagulative necrosis. The band between cutting margin and normal tissue is quite thin, suggesting that the dissection was done with what appears to be a pinpoint accuracy and minimal dissipation of heat at the cut line, close quote. The heat is confined to a millimeter in these excisions. Image 10. This photomicrograph shows dark pinkish blue parallel bundles of cells at the cut edge of the tissue. These changes are referred to as the string bean sign by a pathologist, indicating tissue exposure to high heat, as in laser or hot needle surgery, but again, there is no carbon residue. Image 11. In this photomicrograph, the tissue is from below the hide surface and is called dermis. The upper portion clearly shows many spaces called vacuolar changes where the arrow is, which result from tissue cooking or exposure to high temperatures, probably above 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Image 12. In the lower left-hand corner of this photomicrograph is a distinct color change from a light normal pink to a dark pink. The darker collagen tissue is damaged from some injury source, but shows a striking lack of inflammatory change. This suggests that the procedure of injury was relatively fast. Taking all the microscopic findings into account, one would have to conclude that the surgical procedure performed on these animals took place quickly, probably in a minute or two, and utilized high temperature heat as a cutting source applied in a fine probe or cutting instrument, close quote. We are talking about the excision of an ear, eye, jaw flesh, tongue, the sexual organs, and the rectum in less than 2 minutes, leaving physical evidence that has been repeated. Myself, I have cut tissue from at least 30 of these animals in pastures all over the United States. And all of the findings are exactly the same. How do you excise large sections of tissue and leave the evidence of high heat without carbon residue, no blood and no tracks around the animals, and do it in 2 minutes or less? But this is a phenomena that I understand has been going on for thousands of years, and we are just catching up to it. And when Sheriff Tex Graves, in September of 1979, in my very first interview with somebody in law enforcement about animal mutilations when I began doing A Strange Harvest, told me, Linda, the perpetrators are creatures from outer space, quote unquote. And I felt the same shock that perhaps you do. The truth is, law enforcement has long known from their own eyewitness accounts, they've seen the beams of light in pastures. Ranchers have seen the glowing discs put beams down. Ranchers have seen animals rise into these glowing discs. The glowing discs have been seen lowering animals down in beams of light to pastures where they are then mutilated. And to get those people, law enforcement or ranchers, to stand up in front of a camera and tell the world what they've seen with their own eyes is the biggest difficulty of my entire career, because we are on a planet where humans are more afraid of humans and their ridicule than they are of extraterrestrials.
Okay. What do you, hold on a second here. Going back to the panel. What do you think about that, Tommy? What is your opinion of that clip?
Well, I thought it was very informative. Wasn't that the lady that died of some rapid, mysterious cancer at some point?
No, that's Linda Moulton Howe.
Okay.
She's still alive.
Okay.
She's still doing her research in the field, both in the field and doing a lot of conferences and whatnot. Jax, what's your opinion?
Well,
sorry, we'll come back to you, Tommy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tommy.
You're muted, Jax.
You're muted, Jax. Go ahead, Jax. You're muted.
Still muted.
It's okay. There you go. All right. Tommy.
Well, I was just going to say that this has been going on for decade upon decade upon decade now, and it's always been pretty much the same story. You know, at the end of the day, they're using technology to make these incisions in these animals that we still don't even have yet, and this has been going on for, again, decades. So, and again, it's always the sexual organs. It's almost always the same pieces, really, that they're interested in. Right. And I don't know exactly how they can so much tell that it happened in 20 minutes, but if that's the case, then there's no possible way that we could do that with our current technology with a whole team of medical people behind it.
She's not saying 20 minutes. She's saying like 2 minutes.
Or 2 minutes. I'm sorry, 2 minutes.
Which would be incredibly difficult. I was looking at surgical lasers that are used today by surgeons, and they're attached to bulky equipment to power them. So
Right.
it'd be incredibly difficult to carry that around to mutilate cattle
Mhm.
on a wide scale and that fast. So I don't know. What do you think, Vern?
Why don't you let Jax go?
Okay, Jax, go.
Well, I just find it fascinating that you can all hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay. I just find it fascinating that there's no footsteps, there's no blood anywhere. It's like they fell like out of the sky.
Right.
I mean, those incisions on that it's almost like it's pristine, almost like surgery, like, you know what I mean? So
Interesting you should say that they were, with what you just mentioned, with no footprints or anything around. Let me reiterate that there's been occasions where the animals have been uplifted and moved 100 miles away and redeposited too. Over 100. In the Montana, when we hear the sheriffs.
Right.
So
Yeah, I got to do that yet. Let's see, I got to find it. Here it is. All right, I'm going to play part of this clip so that you guys can take a look at it. There are two Montana sheriffs that are going to testify to UFOs and cattle mutilations.
Awkward on camera.
Hold on here. I'm getting there. Here we go. Can you hear it?
No.
no volume.
No volume? Okay.
No audio.
Hold on. I'll start over. Here we go.
Please understand if any of us seem awkward
Now?
on camera.
Yeah.
None of us are actors.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
A little loud.
I'm Dr. Richard O'Connor.
Okay. I'll see what I can do about that.
From Helena, Montana. I worked as a physician at St. Peter's Hospital for almost 30 years. And I'm here with
Nonsense. Go to about 6:30 or so.
6:30?
Came along with me today to help out with this interview. If you want to introduce yourself, Joan, and just let people know.
Being is capable of, first of all, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had similar comments from different veterinarians. I think if you ask Keith, maybe his memory is better than mine. Probably over the time that we were doing this, we utilized at least 5, if not 6 or 7 different veterinarians. And the opinions pretty much were the same each time. Never seen anything like it. It just happened. The tests that we were able to run were very limited in scope, very amateurish, if you will, meaning basically Keith and I kind of did what we wanted to do. We did call vets in, had them look, give us an opinion. The other thing that occurred, this started, as I said, in Memorial Day. By midsummer that summer of 1975, it got very, very hot, July, August, September. So by the time some of these animals were discovered and reported to us and we got to them, the putrefaction of the bodies was so extreme that it was just really, really difficult to do any kind of an examination. But historically, most of the removal was the same. The faceplate could be right or left side of the face, the ears, the mouth, the lips, the nose, and the vaginal area, and it was predominantly performed on the female sex rather than the male sex of the cattle. We had one horse that was involved, and it was, I'm going to call it a mini horse. It was a pony as opposed to a full-grown horse. That one was a male, and we also had a mutilation reported on a.
Tim, stop it for 1 second.
Pretty much
Okay,
all
hold on.
younger cows.
Yeah.
Two things I want to let know is that the gentleman sitting in the center right here, the one
In the blue.
in the blue, yeah, he passed away September of this year. And coincidentally, he was born the day after my birthday.
Wow.
Well, and they're both sheriffs, retired.
Yeah, he's a captain. The guy that passed away is a captain. The other guy is actually a sheriff, and he deputized him to be able to go into his jurisdiction and be able to follow this. It got to be so off the hook that they had to have full-time people assigned to these cases, believe it or not. And the other thing too that's interesting is they chose mainly female animals. Okay?
Right, not the male ones, right?
You know, it's not ones
Right.
that were of varying age, like calf
Right.
age. So
Mm-hmm.
Cat varying ages and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I didn't have in my county a Bigfoot sighting or report. All that happened down here with Keith in Cascade County. But we did simultaneously experience the UFO sightings, the cattle mutilations, those kind of things, and we worked together in trying to do what we could to do our thing in those days. And Keith was one of 4 deputies here in Cascade County that I cross-deputized. They were also they were authorized to use deputies' arrest authority in my county if necessary. So for the continuing time, they were part of our group, if you will.
Right. So all of you cooperated in investigating these mutilations, and you saw a number of these firsthand on the ground, I assume.
All on the ground.
Uh-huh.
Yes. The horse that he's talking about was one of the most interesting ones we'd ever done. I was there the day that we posted that animal out in the field, and the veterinarian did it. And it had 2 holes in the jugular. So we tried to figure out what would do that. We never came up with any answers, but there a lot of speculation that maybe to keep the veins open, they would maybe put a saline solution in one, pump out the other, and the saline solution would keep the veins open.
Mhm.
I think that was something the vet came up with.
Mhm.
I certainly wouldn't have known that.
This has been a common description with a lot of these mutilations, is these animals are found with their entire blood volume missing,
Yes.
and no evidence of bleeding on the ground, and even in snow, I've heard.
I found them in snow. I've never seen any blood.
Never saw any blood.
No.
Okay.
And about that time, one in the snow, we found the serrated cuts. That was the first time I had seen the serrated cuts. First time I became aware of it because it was so prominent. It may have been another cattle too, but like Pete said, when you go out in July or August and look at a cow that's been laying there for 2 or 3 days, you don't really want to spend a lot of time there.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I'm sure that's
so things change. I think probably as far as that serrated cut might change
Right.
after a few days.
right.
We don't really know how many we had with that serrated cut, but it was very prominent when we first noticed it.
I have a picture in your book that you wrote, Mystery Stalks the Prairie.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I'd like to just show that here
Sure.
in the camera so people can see what you're talking about.
That was the one that I'm talking about. This is I'm pretty sure it's in the book.
Keith is holding in his hands there a book that he wrote called Mystery Stalks the Prairie. I believe that book was published in, what was it, Keith? 1976 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in that book, he shows a detailed photograph of the serrated appearance of these hide incisions. And you can see there on the camera that it has this very regular serrated appearance to the cut edge of the hide incision. And then over here, Pete is holding a book written by Linda Moulton Howe called An Alien Harvest, also another excellent reference text for information about the cattle mutilation phenomenon. And in that picture, I think you can also get a very good idea of how the serrations along the cut edge appear. Very regular and very unusual, and they appear to be cauterized as the cut was made. Thank you guys for showing those. One thing that I would like to point out is that this cut edge is not characteristic of any surgical instrument currently in use that I'm aware of in any operating room in the country. You know, basically, to make skin incisions, they use a Bard Parker surgical steel blade, a harmonic scalpel, or a Bovie electrocautery unit. Those three items are used to make virtually every single skin incision in any surgical procedure in this country. And I have personally witnessed, you know, thousands, probably 10,000 surgical incisions, and I've never seen an incision that looks like that. So this is being done with an instrument that is unknown to modern surgery. And I think that's important to point out. So thank you for bringing that up. So Pete, do you have any, a few minutes ago you mentioned that you thought that these mutilation events could not be due to human activity. They're obviously being done by some intelligence that has a tremendous capability to subdue a huge, powerful animal. And I've heard that this has happened with buffalo, elk, deer, pigs, goats, in various places around the world. And so if we're talking about an intelligence that's responsible for this, and it's not human, then this implies that our world is being affected, contacted in some way by some non-human intelligence. Do you agree with that?
I do, yeah. I guess my own personal observation is just these things are so neatly done, and you don't see it anywhere else. You being a medical doctor, if you say you haven't seen it, where does that take us? And if you look at those, and I've had them in hand, we would excise around the wounds and recover that portion of the tissue or the hide. Both Keith and I don't know how many of those we looked at and examined, looked at them, you know, with just a small glass or a microscope. We're certainly not medical or scientific experts by any means, but it's just you don't see that kind of work anywhere else. And if you look at that closely, even in the picture, there are no hesitation marks, as you would expect to see maybe if it were snip, snip, snip with a pair of picking shears, something like that. I couldn't tell you how many days I spent in Great Falls here looking for picking shears of that size, style, and kind. You can't even cut a cowhide with a pair of picking shears. Won't work.
Yeah.
Just won't work. So what those instruments were that were used, don't have a clue, but it isn't something that we can say we can find another human being that has that ability.
Right.
We don't have that ability, to my knowledge. So,
and you know, the other question it brings up is, how are these animals subdued? You know,
yeah.
Are they anesthetized? And if they are anesthetized, then that implies the use of a drug, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I think has slowed down our understanding of what's going on with this is the American Veterinary Medical Association's unwillingness to address this topic like a professional organization should. One thing that should have been, you know, suggested long ago was to gain blood samples and tissue samples to check for the presence of any drugs that are commonly used either in veterinary anesthesia or in modern medicine. I've looked for those studies and have not found any that were adequate that really addressed how these animals are being subdued and subjected to these kinds of procedures. I think that's really an important question. And I think if the American Veterinary Medical Association was treating this subject with the seriousness that they should have been all along, that we would be much further down the line now in how we understand how this is being done, how these procedures are being carried out. So I would like to encourage veterinarians who may watch this to go to the American Veterinary Medical Association and ask them to give up this ridiculous position that they have that's based on a study that was done by the FBI in 1979, that this is all due to animal predation, when both you, Keith, and you, Pete, and anybody that's looked at this, maybe not had any personal experience, but looked at it from reports of Linda Moulton Howe and others who have looked at this, there's no way that this is animal predation. It's absurd to suggest that. And I hope that the American Veterinary Medical Association, the Montana State Veterinary Medical Association, and other veterinary associations around our country will soon begin to address this like the professional organizations that they should.
Well, and in that same vein, this is cowboy country where we live here in Montana.
Right.
There's, of the animals that I viewed that were down, there was no sign of any struggle. There was never, ever any sign of someone on a horse, for instance, having roped the animal. They were just there. Just the carcass was there, no sign of struggle, no blood. On examination, body fluids are gone. The sexual parts and pieces are missing. It's unreal what was there given what wasn't there. There was no sign of any other thing. Keith mentioned he was born and raised with horses. So was I. I've worked on a lot of ranches. If you're to go out here and put a rope on one of those cows, you're going to have some signs of struggle before that cow ever goes down through whatever means. Whether you shoot them with a rifle, whether you put them down medically or whatever, there's going to be some signs of struggle. There was no such thing ever.
I have
There definitely was never, ever in any of the animals that I looked at, any sign of any kind of struggle. They're just, the carcass was there and the parts and pieces were missing.
I do have a couple of documents that I got off of the FBI website. It's vault.fbi.gov. And in one of those documents, it says regarding this conference that took place in Albuquerque after, I think they had 13 mutilations on a reservation there in New Mexico. And in this document, it says, during this session of the conference, investigators from Arkansas pointed out that they have examined 28 cases of cattle mutilations, and it is their conclusion that all cases were the work of intentional mutilators and not of predators. So that's on the FBI's website. Then there was also on that same website a letter from Senator Floyd Haskell from the U.S. Senate. This was dated August of 1975, and this was addressed to Theodore Rosak of the Denver office of the FBI. And Senator Haskell wrote, "The ranchers and rural residents of Colorado are concerned and frightened by these incidents. The bizarre mutilations are frightening in themselves. In virtually all the cases, the left ear, left eye, rectum, and sex organ of each animal has been cut away and the blood drained from the carcass, but with no traces of blood left on the ground and no footprints." Which So that's just an excerpt from that letter, but I mean, that's certainly consistent with the description that you fellows have given us about what you encountered here in Montana. This was down in Colorado, but essentially identical kinds of reports. These very stereotypical cuts along the faceplate, the upper maxillary lip, the mandible, the ear missing, sometimes an eye missing, and then these sort of cookie cutter cuts around the rectum and the vagina. So
we took those cuts down to Colorado to have a pathologist look at them, and he didn't know what they were. He had no idea.
Right.
So I never seen anything like it. So another dead end.
Right.
Okay. This is like an hour-and-a-half video, so I'm just going to show that segment. But they go into a lot of repetition in regards to the facts. But it shows that no everyday common surgical lasers being used. Nothing that we have in modern technology for modern surgical procedures is being used. Now, Vern, you were suggesting in the chat that it might be like a water knife with sand.
Well, you can cut steel with water and sand, believe it or not, under high pressure.
Would it leave?
But I think that's one way. But I think actually it's a plasma knife, and it uses water. It uses plasma, and the water actually acts as the conduit for the plasma.
Right.
And, that's why it cauterizes the cold, and it's cold. It's not a hot, but it cauterizes immediately, just the surface of the skin. It's very precise. I've been experimenting with plasma out of a plasma globe and water, right. And with you can easily burn yourself with it, and when it burns a hole right through your skin. I mean, just instantly.
Right.
So when it does it by cauterizing it. So.
Right. So you think that's possibly what's happening, and it might be a plasma knife.
Yeah, I think it's something along those lines. They just have a lot better technique than I have available. But I mean, I could probably duplicate it if I had the right,
Right.
stuff.
Okay. I have some images I want to show people. These are, I'm going to show a picture of the horse that they were talking about. Let's see if I can find the horse here. I have a picture of the horse. At least I thought I did. Yeah, here's the horse. Okay, this is the horse that they found originally back in 1967. Eye gone, faceplate gone, tongue was gone, and there was like a cookie cutter cut in the throat right there. Okay. Here's one that's hard to see, but I want you to see the number of cattle. All these cattle here were mutilated all at the same time. It was reported on a ranch outside of Denver, Colorado. I don't remember the year exactly, but it's very indicative of a mass mutilation event. There's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cattle there. According to Linda Moulton Howe in her video at the beginning of our segment, she said this is all done in about 2 seconds per cow. So just imagine how fast was done to 11 really large animals. Okay. Here's another picture. Shows the coring out of the eye and the faceplate being gone, the tongue being gone. Here's a picture showing where the udder was removed after a cow had just given birth. Her calf was removed as well. And the farmers said that they couldn't find the head of the animal either. It was removed as well. Let's see here. Here's one that shows the ear being gone and the eye, and you got the faceplate gone. And then,
interesting that it's always soft tissue.
yeah, I've heard that the soft tissue in and around the mouth and the eye and the ear and the genitals, if it was utilized, the cells were utilized from that tissue in genetic engineering, it would be because that tissue replicates cells faster than normal tissue. So it could be that it's being harvested for genetic manipulation. Here's one I wanted to show because this shows that there's no footsteps or footprints or animal prints around this cow. It's just sitting out in the middle of a field. Absolutely no tracks. Looks like it's just been dropped there. According to the person that took this photograph, no animals would go around that spot. So if you look at the spot, you could see a circle around the cow, and no animal would go into this circle. They'd go around it. They wouldn't go into it.
It looks to me like the displacement of dust after a large object was dropped.
Right, exactly. So, could it be aliens messing with cattle? That's a possibility. Could it be that they're using some type of laser scalpel, plasma scalpel, like what Vern is saying? Very likely. All I can say is this is what farmers and ranchers think. There you go. Aliens go away. Anyways, I want to thank everybody on the panel. Hold on a second here. I want to thank everybody on the panel for joining the conversation. Jax, do you have any final statements?
No, but just that please subscribe to everybody on the panel. Yes. I mean, this is a well-knit community that we are trying to get up and going here and support everybody. So, yeah, yes. That's it.
I reiterate that. Please subscribe.
After show?
Oh, I will say that in a second. Please subscribe to Jax at Paranormal Underworld. He has a great YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Vern at Vern Vision Truth Network. He has a very good channel as well. And Tommy Highway, do you want to show your book?
I don't have one here, but with me, but it's TommyHighway.com, or you can find me at Tommy Highway TV on YouTube.
Yes, brand new channel. Check them out. Please subscribe. And as always, I want to thank everybody in the chat for watching. Thanks for coming, and Happy New Year. And many, many, many successes for you this year. Empathy, peace, and light coming your way. And thank everybody on the panel for coming.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Stay spooky, everybody.